Hello there, another devotion from Mark's Gospel for you, this time at the start of Mark chapter 3, and we're going to look at emotion in ministry. What type of emotion do we show? How do we deal with it? Is it ever right to be angry? How distressed should we get? How should we let our compassion out in ministry situations when we come across people in desperate situations? Listen to this story. Another time Jesus went into the synagogue and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, so they watched him closely to see if he would heal him on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, "Stand up in front of everyone." Then Jesus asked them, "Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?" But they remained silent. He looked around them in anger and, deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus. Wow, there is some emotion going on in this story. This is the last in 5 little conflict stories that Mark presents to us. And here Jesus is in the synagogue. A man with a shriveled hand was there. We wonder if this man was a trap from the Pharisees, who were anxious to push Jesus into a corner and accuse him of blasphemy. And they're waiting to see if Jesus would heal this man. So Jesus actually asks the man to stand up in front of everybody gathered in the synagogue, and then asks them a question: which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill? They remained silent. See, Sabbath laws were so complicated. Jewish law sometimes had hundreds and hundreds of things that you could or couldn't do on the Sabbath. It was a minefield. And Jesus is already facing opposition. And here it's evident that there are at least some people who have come to the synagogue not to worship, but to try to trap Jesus, to try to spy on him. They knew he has the power to heal. The question is he going to do that on the Sabbath? So they were there out of jealousy, out of fear. They don't answer the question that Jesus gives them. You see, you could offer therapeutic dying help to a person on the Sabbath, but if the person wasn't dying there and then, you had to defer treatment to after the Sabbath. And these conflicting and confusing Sabbath laws made it a minefield. But Jesus rose over and above all that. His compassion for people always outweighed legalism. But in verse 5 we read this: he looked around at them in anger and deeply distressed. Wow, if Jesus had any anger, it was always righteous anger. And here his anger is at the stubborn hearts of the leaders and the religious leaders who are trying to trap him and would rather trap him than see a man healed. See, sometimes Jesus looks at people with a mixture of compassion for them and anger for their illness, for their affliction, for their demon possession. But here his anger is at a group of people who would rather play religious games than see somebody healed. And Jesus isn't just angry with them, his heart is deeply distressed. And so it says to me that there are going to be situations and circumstances we are in that are going to make us angry because of the injustice, because of the legalism, because of the unrighteousness. And when we see people with hard hearts who would rather play religious games than see a move of God, that we should be deeply distressed about that. But our compassion should always be towards people who need a touch of God. And here this man receives that. Jesus says to him, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out and his hand was completely restored. I think back to some situations in India and in Africa where I've seen God miraculously heal to a simple response of faith by people as we prayed for them. We don't know how Most of the people in the synagogue responded to that, this public act of healing by Jesus. But we do know this, so listen to the final verse. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus. Interesting, isn't it, the true results of the healing? One, this man is immediately healed. Secondly, there's a plot afoot to kill Jesus. This passage tells us so much about the emotions that come out of a heart that's towards God and a heart that's hard. Guard your emotions in ministry, but be aware of them as well. Don't hold them back if they're coming out of a righteous heart. It's right to have an overflow of compassion for somebody. It's right to be in tears for somebody. It's right to be angry at injustice and unrighteousness. It's right to grieve when you see hard hearts that are turned away from God. But most of all, it's right to offer practical love and compassion in the name of Jesus. Your hand might be the hand that brings the touch of Jesus to somebody in your situation that needs it. God bless you. Speak to you next week.